Welcome to this week's edition of the Reigns on the Cardinals podcast. Rob Reigns, Mike Reigns, FCLSportsPage.com here. Big thank you to all of our sponsors, the Drury Hotel chain, of course, AAA Travel of Missouri, Archwell Health, and our newest sponsor, the Rawlings Experience. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more here later on in the podcast, Mike. But how are you doing all over there in West County today?
We're drying out. It's been kind of a rainy, soggy day here. So, yeah, doing good. Excited to be here.
Kind of a surprise to me. We're coming to you after the Cardinals, of course, wrap up their first homestand of the year, the 4-3 loss to the Phillies on Wednesday afternoon. As you mentioned, very soggy day down at the ballpark. I'm actually kind of surprised they got that game in without a rain delay.
Yeah, it was interesting, too. And I think it's one of those games for the first time that I think, as Brad Thompson said it best, that the Cardinals just kind of beat themselves, right? One of those, we look back at some of the other games, and this was the first one where they kind of, you thought had an opportunity and kind of beat themselves.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, and we're going to talk about a couple of specific plays that happened during that game, and get into, of course, a general discussion about how the week went for the Cardinals. But I think when you're playing as many young players as the Cardinals are playing to start the season, specifically Victor Scott II, you're going to have some growing pains, and I think we saw that on Wednesday with some of the things that happened in that game. A couple of things, obviously Scott misplays the ball in the outfield of the first inning, gives the Phillies 2 unearned runs. Obviously, they end up losing the ball game by 1 run. Also had another play that he could have made later on in the game, and then unfortunately a mistake when he did get a hit, broke an 0 for 24 streak when he got an infield single there in the 7th inning, but then unfortunately got made just a slight turn towards second base, not very significant at all, but the Phillies caught it to give them credit, and they tagged him out. So I think young players are going to make young player mistakes, and that's what happened on Wednesday.
And I think the other tough part is, too, you look at a game like today, and it's a very winnable game, right? But you're facing somebody, in an ace of Aaron Nola type player, and the Phillies are a good team. And so when you think there's an opportunity to beat a team like that, you want to capitalize on it. But, you also have to factor in it was kind of a wet, sloppy day. So it's a tough day to play out there, too, right?
Yep.
Lynn's got to be thinking, can I ever pitch in dry weather here at some point?
I say it's the new Michael Wacha. Remember when Michael Wacha was here, and it seemed like every time he started there was a rain delay. So maybe Lynn's going to take over that thing. But yeah, I think Lynn pitched okay. I mean, he got through 5 innings again on a rain-soaked day, and we talked about all the details in the post-game report, concentrating a little bit on Zach Thompson. One of the things we're going to see, interesting thing to watch going forward here is what happens with Zach Thompson now. We all kind of knew when Sonny Gray came back into that rotation that somebody was going to get bumped. It was most likely was going to be Zach Thompson, the most inexperienced of the other 5 starters. So he did go to the bullpen, pitch 3 1/3 scoreless innings on Wednesday. So I'm hoping he kind of can now be used more in that role and be able to still be a productive part of this ball club.
Thompson absolutely should have been the first call out of the bullpen today. I think it's tough because we saw how much Ollie relied on Palante last year, and he did a good job, right? But he was one of those guys that was just kind of a good luck ground ball pitcher. Well, eventually your luck's going to run out, and I'm worried that's happening to Andre Palante here soon, right? And if Zach Thompson can step up and be that guy, then that helps fill that hole for sure.
He held the game. It was a 4-2 game when he came in. The Cardinals did get a run on an Arenado single, and then had a chance. A couple guys on base in the 8th inning couldn't get the hit to tie it up, and also had a chance then in the 9th inning when another, I guess you could probably say maybe a young player mistake. Mason Wynn had a chance to bunt in the 9th inning and move that potential tying run to second with Walker, and then Paul Goldschmidt was going to pinch hit for Victor Scott. So have a couple chances to get that tying run in, but unfortunately he flied out, and then Walker hit into a double play, and that was the end of the ballgame.
I was really surprised they didn't call the bunt there. I don't know if it was on Mason to do it himself and he just didn't, or, obviously Ollie didn't call it because Mason would have done it, but just odd to me that you wouldn't at least try to advance the runner with that kind of speed and Siani there pinch running, at least to break up the double play, knowing how important that run is.
Cardinals ended up losing 2 of the 3 games to the Phillies, and one of the, I think, surprising thing to me, at least, that they were able to shut down Bryce Harper. Harper goes 0 for 11, struck out 3 times, hit into 3 double plays in the series. And I went back and looked it up because I remember him having a lot of success against the Cardinals, but since the start of the 2021 season, he's only 3 for 30 in 9 games at Busch Stadium. So Bryce Harper hadn't really been a guy that's been the Phillies' main cog in any of these games.
Although I don't know. I would think that one of those was a monster home run, if I'm remembering correctly. So I feel like that's the one that we remember, right? But yeah, no, they've managed to get the guys out that they can, right? And that's the key is, win the winnable games, right? And that's what they're trying to do here. When you look back at this series against the Phillies.
Well, I think the most encouraging thing that happened during the series against the Phillies was the debut of Sonny Gray. 5 innings, 5 shutout innings. It kind of looked like the guy that the Cardinals expected him to be. And I was a little surprised, to be honest with you, after he hadn't pitched in a competitive game in a month. Just some of the warm up games and simulated games in the backfields in Florida, and then against some of the Double-A hitters down in Springfield last week. And he lobbied the Cardinals into saying he was ready to pitch in a big league game. Didn't need to go to Memphis for a rehab start, and turned out he appears he was right. So that's a positive sign. I think we both believe that the starting pitching has been pretty good to this point, but I think it can be even better if Sonny Gray can do what he did against the Phillies on Tuesday night.
Absolutely. And I think we saw this down in the spring this year, but Sonny Gray is a guy who's very much in command and in control of what he's doing. He knows his game very well. And you watched, in spring training when he threw those bullpens, he was the one running the show. It wasn't Wilson or it wasn't Herrera at that point. It was him doing it. And so I think that goes a long way when he says to Ali that, hey, I'm ready to go. I know my body well enough. And clearly he was in very much control. You wondered there at one point if Ali was going to take him out right there at the end when he came out in the 5th inning, but I'm glad that Ali stuck with him and gave him the confidence. But a healthy Sonny Gray goes a long way for this rotation that's been very good so far.
I thought another positive development during the whole homestand, not just the 3 games against the Phillies, was the play of Ivan Herrera. He had his third home run of the season on Wednesday, and he's I think going to not force the issue because they still like Wilson Contreras obviously a lot to be catching, but I think there's not going to be as many concerns maybe about giving Wilson some more time off and resting, or do what they did on Wednesday, which is have Herrera catch and put Contreras at the DH spot, or the other way around. So that's going to be a nice problem to have too.
As they tell you, with the young players or call-up guys, take advantage of the situation that you have, right? And he absolutely has forced their hand because he's playing very well. He's hitting the ball well. He's running well. Everything is working out great. So, he's probably making the case that, when Nootbaar comes back here soon, that, Herrera could probably, stay in the DH spot as opposed to Burleson, because Herrera's playing better than Burleson.
Yeah, I think Nootbaar is going to come back. The Cardinals with an off day on Thursday. They will be leaving for Arizona. They started the series out there and the 3 games in Oakland as well on this next road trip. All indications are that Lars Nootbaar is going to be activated from the injured list, go with the Cardinals to Arizona, and will make his season debut on Friday. So you get Sonny Gray back on Tuesday, you get Lars Nootbaar back on Friday. Things are maybe starting to pick up a little bit for this ball club.
It's looking very good for sure. And I would think the odd man out at this point in time is Burleson, probably, right? With the way he's been playing.
I think probably they're going to send Pedro Pages back because they brought him up when they were worried about Contreras, being able to catch. So they needed that second catcher. So I think right now,
starting lineup.
Yeah, I think so, obviously, because I think you're going to still leave. If Nootbaar plays left, then I think you're going to have either Donovan or Gorman probably DH and playing second. And again, with the emergence of Herrera and Contreras, especially if you want a right-handed bat in that DH spot, I think you're going to see one of those guys go that route too. So, yeah, I think it definitely should affect Burleson's playing time. Although you have to say he had a couple more hits in key situations on Wednesday. He's played well.
He has, for sure. And I'm not saying that he hasn't. I'm just saying, when you're obviously not back to Memphis, but when you're looking at the starting lineup and who's filling spots, I mean, Herrera with the power, especially the home runs there, is really, making it a tough decision.
Rains on the Cardinals podcast here. We brew it every week here on STLSportsPage.com. Rob Rains and Mike Rains. And I think, obviously, the Cardinals to this point, 6-7 on the season, 13 games into the schedule, probably about the record that we would expected them to have with the schedule that they've had to this point. Doesn't get any easier with the 3 games in Arizona. Maybe do get a little bit of a break with the series in Oakland, and then you come back home and play Milwaukee and Arizona again. So we're kind of right where we thought they would be as far as flirting with the 500 mark, and we're messing with getting a couple of those injured guys back. Maybe an uptick a little bit coming here in the next few games. That the 2 guys that we focused on a lot, and I think everybody has focused on them a lot because they're supposedly the 2 best players on this team, the 2 players that you want to play their best, who really haven't to this point. And again, you got a 6-7 record without getting a whole lot of contributions from either Nolan Arenado or Paul Goldschmidt.
Neither one of them have done what they needed to do offensively. It was nice to see Arenado get a hit today with a runner in scoring position to cut it to a 1-run game, and maybe he's starting to turn that corner. But I think the positive that you can look at in their game, especially Paul Goldschmidt, is the defensive side, right? Those two plays that Goldie made at first yesterday were unbelievable. He stayed on the bag on both of them. And so, they're not doing what they need to do offensively, but the fact that they're saving the game defensively and keeping them in the ball game is why they're there. And Goldie's showing why he's won multiple Gold Gloves.
Yeah, just 5 for 40 since opening day. Paul Goldschmidt, he had the day off on Wednesday, and you could really say the same thing about Victor Scott as far as the defense is concerned. He's played every game in center field, and until Wednesday, had a really some strong performances and some good plays. Just made a couple of mistakes on Wednesday, and he admitted after the game, he said, "I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm going to learn from them." And I think that's an encouraging attitude for him to take as well. And you still have to think that at some point, Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado are going to hit. I mean, Nolan Arenado didn't draw his first walk until Tuesday night. He still hasn't hit a home run this far this season. He hadn't hit a home run since last August. So you just have to think that at some point that has to turn around. And if it doesn't turn around and you don't get, all the young kids maybe picking up the slack and doing more than you expected them to do, it doesn't really matter what happens to this team because they're not going to go very far.
Correct. But, if you look at the team right now, you're kind of okay with them off to this slow start, right? Because we said from the beginning, if this team gets through April 500, I think we would all count that as a win, right? Because it's a tough schedule, it's a tough start, and you just don't want to have the start you did last year and get down so far. And that hasn't happened. And I think the fact that they are 6-7, you can sit here and say it's been a good start. There are some highlights to this first couple weeks of the season, right? The downside is you look at it and say there were a couple winnable games that we lost, but you're going to have that every year, right? But I think the highlights are the starting pitching's been really well. The bullpen has kept them in a lot of games. We talked about Zach Thompson and those guys doing well, and the defense has been where it needed to be up until today. The defense across the board has significantly improved over last year.
I think the one guy in the starting rotation that we didn't talk about that you have to kind of salute and has pitched a lot better maybe than anybody expected is Steven Matz. And he'll get the start on Friday night in the opener in Arizona. So, yeah, that, by and large, I think the starting pitching, again, Thompson had a couple of rough starts, and he admitted that out on the West Coast. But you look at all the other guys, and Michaelis has had, kept him in the ball game most of the time that he's pitched. Wynn's been okay. He's been affected by the rain a couple of times, and then you got the other guys. So I think we thought the starting pitching would be much better than it was a year ago. We thought the bullpen would be better than it was a year ago, despite the injuries that they've suffered. I think both of those are true.
And we want to, some people want to talk about Kyle Gibson and the start that he just recently had, giving up 7 runs. After the first inning, he only gave up 2 more hits. He really settled down. And if you look back at the whole body of work, for a starter who's healthy, he's probably going to give you somewhere between 30 and 32 starts on a year, right? Correct. So if Kyle can give you 20 starts like he did in the first game where he goes 7 innings and 2 runs, and 10 starts where he gives up a few more than that, I think we would all sit back and take that, because that's 20 chances to win the ball game. And, if you can sit back and win 15 or 18 of them, all of a sudden that's looking pretty good, right? So I think you have to be impressed at the whole body of work by the starting pitching all the way through.
The other highlight for us this week, we had a chance to go out and get a preview and an inside behind-the-scenes tour of the new Rawlings experience that Rawlings Sporting Goods is establishing at their new headquarters out in Maryland Heights, right there in Westport Plaza. The grand opening is Friday, starting at 10 a.m. Ribbon cutting. Ozzie Smith's going to be out there. Ted Simmons is going to be out there. Encourage everybody to go check it out. The green space that they put in, if you haven't been out to Westport Plaza for a while, it was amazing. And I congratulate everybody at Rawlings for the work that they've done. It's just a terrific experience, and it really, really looked cool.
It's a really neat experience for sure. Obviously, Friday is going to be cool with the Hall of Famers, Ozzie Smith there, and Simba, everybody there to get photos and checked out and see all that stuff. The cool space about Westport is, like you said, that green space is cool, and Rawlings is also still adding more to the store. And at some point, they're going to add this huge TV screen outside to where they're going to be showing the Cardinal games, so you can come and hang out and create this space that's not necessarily inside the store, but just a space to hang out and watch Cardinal baseball. But part museum, part store. There's all kinds of unique history, from the Gold Glove Awards to just cutaways of a baseball to see what the inside of a baseball looks like. And
Yeah, a lot of neat memorabilia that they've going to have on display out there. A big gold glove you can take some pictures with, and everything. A lot of stuff that you can be able to purchase as well, the bats and gloves and things like that. They're going to have an expert out there who's going to help you pick out a glove, how to make a glove, and stitch it for you. You got a little batting cage there if you want to get try out a new bat that you're thinking about buying. You can go take it right into the cage and check it out. But then again, all the gold gloves, the current gold glove winners have their awards on display, and then what they call the gold glove vault, which will be kind of the hall of fame of gold glove winners. They have all their like a locker set up, like a locker room set up. It's just a very cool experience. And I think anybody who's a baseball fan owes it to themselves to make a trip out there. Free admission. Obviously, you can go in and look at all the memorabilia that they have and all the other items that they have for sale. No charge there. And then if you got something that you like that you want to pick up and purchase, then be able to do that right there on the spot.
If I'm a parent of a kid that's playing baseball or softball and I'm looking for equipment for them, this would absolutely be my first and only stop, because the experience that you're going to get there is truly like no other. And you're going to speak to the experts that are going to be able to talk about the specifics of a bat or a glove, and not just some, associate working at a store at Dick's or Academy or whatever. But the Rawlings experience is truly going to be hands-on. And the hit lab that they have, the cage you were talking about, is really cool, because it's going to talk about different bat speed and exit velocity and all kinds of statistics to show you which bat is right for you. Are you swinging one different than another? Are you hitting one with more power than the other? So you can truly get the best bat for you. And I don't know any other store that lets you demo a bat before you buy it, and truly check it out like that. So, that alone is going to be a really unique experience. And then when it comes to custom gloves, you can look on a computer and try to order a custom glove, but they have all of the leather samples. They have gloves made of each color, so you can see what's there in each style and try it on and feel and look at it. And it's just a truly must stop for any baseball or softball fan or parent or player in St. Louis, or even traveling in for that matter.
Yeah, I was going to mention we talk a lot about the baseball experience, but they've also got a full line of softball equipment as well for the softball players in the group, especially the young ladies in high school, college level, amateur sport level, is whatever. Full line of softball equipment as well. There's just the same as the baseball side. You can check it out and see what works for you and go on from there. And I think a lot of people don't realize how. I mean, obviously they heard the name Rawlings, they're familiar with the award. The Rawlings Gold Glove Award has been handed out for 70 years almost now, but I don't know that necessarily people realize Rawlings is a St. Louis company, and that I think having this new experience out there at Westport Plaza, instead of just having their office in like an office park somewhere, it's going to make it a lot more familiar for people to realize what a great St. Louis company it is.
I'm excited for their commitment to St. Louis. And now with this project, they're truly showing that, hey, we belong in St. Louis. We're from St. Louis, and we want to show people that we're here, and we're putting it out there. And, for those that may not know too, as you go through the store, Rawlings also owns Easton. So as you're looking at different bats and things like that along the line, so you may see some Easton products and things out there too that are now Rawlings products too. So there's a lot of variety throughout the Rawlings experience.
So I encourage everybody to go out there, even if you can't make it out to the grand opening on the ribbon cutting and everything on Friday with Ozzie and Ted Simmons out there to sign autographs and take pictures. Come on and check it out. It'll be open, I think, 7 days a week starting on Friday. So go out there and check out the experience. And I think you'll be very, very glad that you did. So congratulations to everybody at Rawlings for a great job. And we couldn't be more excited to have their grand opening. I think the weather's even supposed to be nice on Friday.
Should be a very nice day, yes. Everybody needs to come out and check it out.
We mentioned the Cardinals hit the road starting Friday after the day off on Thursday. They'll be in Arizona to start 3 games against the Diamondbacks. Of course, the defending National League champions. That won't be an easy series. Corbin Carroll and some of those. I haven't heard, but I don't think that Jordan Montgomery is going to be able to make his debut this quick. I know he's made at least one minor league start, but I don't think he's on the schedule to pitch this weekend against the Cardinals, which is probably a good thing.
And it's probably a good thing. And the Diamondbacks been playing well. The one thing I will say, as someone who plays a decent amount of fantasy baseball, is when a team leaves Coors Field, that first game is typically a little bit slower for them to come back. So I like Steve out ahead early in that game because of the Coors effect in coming back down in the altitude.
Hadn't really thought about that, but you would be familiar with that information as well. Then, of course, after the 3 games in Arizona, the Cardinals go on to Oakland for what all looks like now it'll be their last series ever in Oakland. The A's have announced that they're going to move to Sacramento on their temporary stop for the next few years while they're trying to get the new stadium built in Las Vegas. That's going to be interesting to see what happens with that situation. But don't expect a whole lot of folks to be at those games in Oakland next week.
There will not be a lot of people there. That is very true.
I know you went there a couple years ago for a ball game.
Yeah, I'm glad that I was able to knock that one off the bucket list for sure to see it. So, very unique experience. I like the park. It's nice. It's big, but there was a lot of room to walk around and catch foul balls.
One of the stories, of course, that everybody in baseball is excited about, and with the St. Louis connection, is Jackson Holliday. Matt Holliday's oldest son got called up by the Baltimore Orioles on Wednesday, made his major league debut at Fenway Park against the Red Sox, just 20 years old. And congratulations to Matt and Leslie and everybody in the Holliday family for Jackson's quick ascent through the minor leagues. And it's going to be exciting to see what he does at the big league level.
Did you notice that he's wearing Matt's number?
I did see that, number 7.
I thought that was cool that he picked that number. Yeah. At last look, he was 0 for 4 with 2 Ks and a sack fly. So, but that
Growing
first
pains,
game,
right? Like we talked about.
As we've talked about, you're gonna, there's a lot of emotion there. There's a lot of excitement, and for someone who rose through so quickly, right? Maybe not as much hype as Victor Scott doesn't have as much hype as Jackson Holliday, but there's something to be said about when you move through so quickly. As a lot of people have talked about, when you get to the point where you can slow the game down and the game slows down for you is when everything starts to click. And so for Jackson Holliday and for also, Victor Scott and some of the younger guys too, as they start to process everything and slow the game down, you're going to see their game pick up.
Well, just to look at the difference between Mason Wynn so far this season and the way he played last September. And I think that's a great case in point.
Yes, I would completely agree. You can tell to him the game is slowed down, and he looks much more calm in the box and relaxed, and you can tell he's letting.
Just wish he would have bunted in the 9th inning.
I wish he would have bunted in the 9th.
Mike, thanks for the visit. This is Rob Raines, STLSportsPage.com. Thanks again to all of our sponsors, Drury Hotels, AAA Travel of Missouri, Archwell Health, and the new Rawlings Experience. Don't forget to check out the grand opening out there in Westport Plaza on Friday. Mike, we'll talk to you next week here on STLSportsPage.com, the Raines on the Cardinals podcast.